It is Wednesday, August 15th, 2018. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And it was a very productive get your ass kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Wednesday. Kind of light, kind of easy. Didn't do an incredible amount of sparring. As a matter of fact, we didn't do a whole. I don't think we did any sparring today, which is just as well. My elbow is still kind of bugging me a little bit from Monday. Yeah, that's and as far as what we actually covered today, I for some reason am having the hardest time trying to figure it out or figure out how to explain it. But mostly it was sweeps, or not sweeps so much as throws. It was a type of hip throw that we were working on, and kind of the setup for that. It was really interesting, and honestly, we were doing some stuff today I felt like if I'd spent a lot more time on would be a very, very significant part of my game. I really don't think that we do train stand-up enough in the gym that I'm working out at. I really feel like we ought to be doing at least like one stand-up technique and then like two on-the-ground techniques. But I don't know. I'm not a coach, so I guess that's probably wise because I don't know how to set up a class yet. But yeah, so like I said, I was pretty confident with the material that we were covering today, and I feel like if I got a lot more reps in that, it would be a significant part of my repertoire. But yeah, I had a decent time today, and I didn't feel like I tested my elbow too much, so that was good. Kind of give it a chance to heal up a little bit. But I found out that I'm not the only person that's too slow to stop this particular person from getting an arm bar. And I'm starting to wonder about how to address that because, the way I feel about training is this, that, sure, if I'm getting caught in an arm bar regularly, then there's a glitch in my game that I need to work out. But, if I can't train it, I can't fix it. And if I'm injured, I can't train it. And if the person that I'm training with, if I can't trust the person that I'm training with to forgive a glitch or a mistake in my game long enough to give me the opportunity to tap, the likelihood that I'm going to end up having to go to the hospital rather than learning how to avoid the issue is pretty fucking low. If it's further on the side that I'm going to end up having to go to the fucking hospital over something that this person is doing. And so I'm just not going to train with that person. If we get back down to sparring again, I'll sit out. If he's the only opportunity if he's the only person that I have to spar with, I will simply sit out of it. Because I would much rather miss out on a 3 to 5 minute round than 3 to 5 weeks of training because somebody isn't being careful enough with my body. There's a lot of trust that goes into sparring. You're trusting that when the person does get you to a choke, that if you do get an opportunity to tap before you pass out, that they are going to let go. Or that they are going to give you an opportunity to tap before they have to resuscitate your ass. And like I said, it's a rough sport, so the opportunity for injury is quite high. And I was just watching something by it was either Joe Rogan or Joey Diaz, one of the two. And the guy that he was talking to, the host was talking to, I think it was Joe Rogan on the Fight Companion. They were talking about it, and the one guy was saying how he couldn't seem to get through a training session without having some sort of injury. And that's just indicative of how rough jiu-jitsu is. If you can get through the class without a significant injury, and you did go hard, that's good on you. But even when you're going hard, as long as you're not out on the street, against somebody in a real life situation, at that point, then you don't give a fuck if they tap. You break that fucking arm, because there's usually a reason why you're in a conflict with them. But we're not talking about that kind of situation. We're talking about the area and the place and the time where you train in preparation for those kind of events. And like I said, you can train a whole lot less if you're injured. So trying to injure your opponent while in class is not usually a good idea. I mean, sometimes somebody will do something that pisses you off or frustrates you or whatever, but really, a good part of jiu-jitsu is learning how to deal with that frustration and get through it in your own mind without necessarily injuring yourself trying to get there. Anyway, with that, I want to go ahead and throw into some music, because we have not played any yet. And as far as our first dance, I have not picked anything out. I've been just freeballing it lately. Here, let's go with some Corrosion of Conformity. Dance of the Dead. First dance, here on Coin Metal. And that was Prong with Contradictions. My apologies there. We went a little bit long, but I got into a really in-depth conversation on Twitter, as sometimes happens. You can't exactly control when somebody's going to be available to have a deep philosophical conversation over an international social media platform. So you got to take the opportunity when it's available. That's just how it is. Anywho, let's get into it. Oh, let's see here. Oh my God. I don't know that I want to report on this one, because I might end up dead too. Anyway. There's this one article that I wanted to get into today just because of my own personal experience. And, I used to do customer service at one point or another. It's kind of a specialty of mine. I have a decent voice on the phone. I'm very, very patient with people. I'll help you work through your fucking problem. But one of the things that we would occasionally run into is social engineers. Unfortunately, there are really, really, really good social engineers out there. And less fortunately, they're good enough to get through most of the security protocols that companies in the position to have customer service departments actually equip their people for. One of the kind of things that you get lulled into is the idea that everybody that's trying to contact you in a customer service department is actually having a customer service issue and is not actually a social engineer trying to get the personal information or get access to somebody else's account. It just doesn't really cross your mind. And if you're stupid, you'll sit there and read people's information off to a complete fucking stranger and get yourself and somebody else in a lot of trouble. And it is when those events happen, though, that there is the question of liability. Who is actually liable when that happens? The user for making the event possible by even having an account? I don't think that's a reasonable standard. The customer service agent. Well, but yeah, he's the one that he or she is the one that facilitates the action. But of course, I believe the hacker themselves. And if we do use the information that we have available to the best of our abilities, finding them should not be as big an issue as it used to be. There is plenty of tracking software out there that we did, and tracking capability that we did not previously have. I'm reading Ghost in the Wires by Kevin Mitnick, and that dude pulled off some major shit. But he did it by tricking people into thinking that he was somebody he wasn't. And this is one of those things that I keep coming back to with the whole Russian scandal. If you're one of those people that believes that the Russians had anything to do with Donald Trump getting elected, I feel sorry for you, number one. But number two, if you are one of those people, you have to question exactly how they did it. And how do we know that it's quote-unquote Russians? See, the one thing that I've found in reading Kevin Mitnick's book is that somebody in his circumstance, a hacker or social engineer, all right, the one thing that he always did, and it didn't matter what the fuck he was doing. I mean, dude, he was pulling off shit while he was being chased by the FBI. He like disassociated. I'm not gonna get further into it, but I'm just saying that, it's like he found out they were kind of closing in on him on one end, and so rather than continuing on that end, he just said, "Oh, fuck it, I'll just disengage that one and go over here." I got everything that I really wanted from that one, and just went on to another hack, even while he knew that the FBI and possibly other federal and state agencies were trying to get him. He was a fugitive at the time. Anyway, continuing on. I'm not going to get too deep into that. Anyway, the point I was getting to is that regardless of what he was doing, he always set it up to where it seemed like it was somebody else doing it. So that, if somebody was investigating it, the likelihood that they would come across him was much lower because he was using identities and whatnot that were not him. So when we look at this whole Russiagate thing, right, you got to say to yourself, okay, well, how did they know it was Russians? And, all of the reporting information that I've read on it doesn't indicate that there was actually like real quote-unquote actionable information that specifically tied the Russian government to anything. So, take that for what it's worth. But the point being that the indicators that they had were not necessarily ones that would indicate that they were actually Russian hackers. That if they were Russian hackers, if they were good hackers, they would have been able to do things in such a way that nobody would have known that they did it. Or at least it would have been very, 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 very difficult to winnow your way through the onion layers of obfuscation and bullshit to get to the truth, which will take you months, possibly years, give them an opportunity to go to a jurisdiction that you do not have any kind of extradition with. That's how that works. Anyway, continuing on, the reason I got into that is that, again, I used to work as a customer service agent, and we did have social engineers trying to get your information and get into your account. And so here we go. This is on Cointelegraph, and it's by Marie Hewlett. So no penis. Investor files lawsuit against AT&T over hack that allegedly lost him $24 million in crypto. Oh, Jesus Christ. A U.S. investor has filed a $224 million lawsuit against telecom giant AT&T over alleged negligence that he claims caused him to lose $24 million in cryptocurrency, CNBC reports August 5th. Plaintiff Michael Turpin, and that name sounds so fucking familiar, has reportedly filed a 69-page complaint with the U.S. District Court in Los Angeles against his erstwhile telecoms provider, alleging that $24 million in cryptocurrency was stolen via a, quote, digital identity theft of his cell phone account. Saying he was the victim of 2 hacks within 7 months, The investor accuses AT&T of, quote, willing cooperation with the hacker, gross negligence, violation of its statutory duties, and failure to adhere to its commitments in its privacy policy. I'm going to go one deeper on you, bro. What you ought to do is investigate your state for money transmitter license requirements. And if there is any that match the custodial duties that AT&T had as the host and provider of your service, you might be able to get them on that too. After the first hack, Turpin claims that, quote, insider cooperation with the hacker enabled an imposter to acquire his cell phone number without being required to show valid identification or a password. That phone number later allegedly facilitated the hacker's access to Turpin's crypto holdings, CNBC reports. Quote, what AT&T did was like a hotel giving a thief with a fake ID a room key and a key to the room safe to steal jewelry in the safe from the rightful owner, the complaint continues. Turpin is said to be seeking $200 million in punitive damages and $24 million in compensation from AT&T. I'd want it in Bitcoin. The plaintiff is reportedly the co-owner of an angel group for Bitcoin investors dubbed BitAngels in 2013 and of a digital currency fund, the BitAngels dApps Fund. More commonly, crypto-related lawsuits have been filed against cryptocurrency exchanges and their alleged mishandling of security breaches. Since the unprecedented theft of over $500 million in NEM tokens from hacked Japanese exchange Coincheck this January, numerous class action lawsuits have been filed by investors suing the exchange over its decision to freeze withdrawals in the hack's aftermath. Let's see if there is a comment on here. It says there's one, but when we click on it, we don't actually get... Fuck, son of a... Fucking cookie bullshit. What the fuck? Give me the goddamn comment. Of course, there's no fucking comment on there now that I've given them the fucking cookie bull... Fucking shit. Assholes. Anywho, so yeah, money transmitter license. That's I would be certainly pursuing them for that kind of a gig, because these are the laws that they're going to be trying to apply to us with regard to Lightning networks and all that other bullshit, and they're going to be hammering on the idea of responsibility over customer funds that are in transit from point A to point B. And that being the case, like I said, if they're going to try and pursue any kind of regulation on that end, they definitely have to be pursuing the same level of issuance against AT&T. If AT&T is not licensed as a money service provider or money service business or money service, monetary service business or whatever, the MSB license, whatever the fuck that stands for. Anyway, if they are not properly licensed for that, they need to get the fuck out of it. Because, really now, people can host all kinds of funds on their cell phone. And if AT&T is going to be so loose with their service that somebody else can get access to your funds on your cell phone, that's a tremendous responsibility. And, it's something else. We're coming into this whole thing with regard to Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, and they're trying to take on the responsibility of censoring other people and blocking and all this other bullshit. When you look at how much personal information is tied up with, like, your cookies and all your use data with those accounts, I gotta wonder, maybe they do need some sort of additional licensure. I don't know. There's got to be an answer on that. It's either something where you've assumed the possibility of risk that, their servers may get hacked, or some asshole may manage to social engineer their way through the customer service and convince them that you're them. But at the same time, there does need to be some sort of requirement for them if they are going to be handling money, or if there's going to be any kind of association with your monetary accounts, like your bank accounts or your credit cards or anything like that. I think that if we are going to get into this whole thing about regulating cryptocurrencies and the way that we use them, then all of these social media platforms, all of the ISPs, every single one of them are going to have to face the same level of licensure. Because the fact of the matter is that all of them are participants, and at every single point through their systems, there are vulnerabilities that could crop up and cost you money. Now, if you're really smart, you avoid associating your information in such a way that it can be accessed. You don't do things like Lightning Network, where your funds are trapped on an online network that at some point or another, some hacker gets a hold of your node, some hacker gets a hold of your desktop. I mean, if you're hosting enough money on there, the motive to try and hack you goes way the fuck up. Like this guy, I can't remember his name, but he, at one point or another, one guy had about 50% of all the Bitcoin on the Lightning Network on his node. The temptation to try and nail him and get access to those Bitcoin, I am sure, was very, very high. And so, when you're looking at that and the volume, if you're going to be using Bitcoin as money on Lightning Network, we're talking about goods and services that people are going to be purchasing with Bitcoin using the Lightning Network. And Rick Falkfinch talks about this, where he says that the whole thing operates under the assumption that all of the players, all of the nodes, are compliant, that none of them are adversarial. And I think that given the given the drop off in success possibility with the volume of increase on the transaction, I don't see it as the way out. When you look at the dependability of the Bitcoin network of a transaction actually completing on chain versus off chain, where you've put the transaction, the state of the transaction in the charge of somebody else at some point or another, where they are assuming the responsibility over your transaction at one point or another. And of course, that's something that you accept when you're getting into it. But at some point, I would imagine somebody would want to do some sort of insurance. You'd want something like the FDIC that guarantees that when this fucking thing settles out, everybody gets their fucking Bitcoin. I don't see that in the future of Lightning, and I don't see them achieving that level of security and certainty without one, maybe 5, maybe 10 tops, huge fucking players handling the vast majority of all of the transactions, and then smaller licensed and regulated entities, that there won't be any unlicensed entities in it. That if you're assuming responsibility over other people's funds, then goddamn it, you got to get regulated. When I think about all this, I was just watching something on World Crypto Network today. I tuned into one of their shows and I commented a little bit. I'm listening to them talk about setting up a Lightning Network node, and I'm like, dude, this is so much better than scan, enter, send. I mean, really, I'm so impressed. Now I'm going to have, in addition to the live wallet on my phone, I'm also going to have my own ATM machine storing my money for me to spend at home. Oh, wow. That sounds so much more convenient. Not. Give me a fucking break, man. I mean, getting people to understand how to use a wallet, as simple as it is, it's literally scan, enter the amount, and send. The fucking wallet does all the conversion for you. You're sending it in the equivalence of, value of Chinese yen. The wallet can do that. It doesn't matter if you're in America, it can do that. I mean, really, give me a fucking break. Why is that so difficult? Why is it so much more preferable to have to host your own fucking ATM just to spend your Bitcoin? Where's the fucking appeal in that? I don't understand. Where is the appeal in that? To me, it just sounds like a lot of fucking pain in the ass. If I'm not going to be compensated at least the level of the electricity that I'm dedicating to the proposition, then why am I bothering to do it? So yeah, the possibility of social engineering can get you wrecked, and you need to watch out for your own bunghole on that. Don't store enough on your phone for it to be worthy of hacking. I mean, really now. Don't connect your phone to certain accounts that can get you wrecked. Don't have enough live volume not tied up in a fucking trade to be worth hacking. And there's one other thing. I came across this idea, and it seems to work out pretty well, is buy a phone under a pseudonym. Yeah, that's right. Just use fucking cash. Buy the thing in cash. Pay for a year of service. Pay for it at a year at a time. And it's done. Use it for all your fucking two-factor authentication and all of your maybe on your account for your email. You don't use your real name for that either. These are just little fucking infosec tweaks that you can do to break the line of custody and make it that much more difficult for an attacker to get a hold of your funds. If when they call AT&T and they say that they're you, right? Or they say that they're the name on your Gmail account, and it's not the same account on your fucking AT&T account, they don't get anywhere. They go, oh yeah, I'm Mr. Johnson. Yeah, Johnson, I don't have a Johnson associated with this phone number. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. That's as far as it goes. Now, if you're silly and stupid, and you put your real name and your real address, and you associate it with your Gmail account and your phone number and your phone account and your MySpace account and your Facebook account and your Twitter account and your give me a fucking break. You're just asking. You're saying, hey man, somebody get a hold of my data. Somebody. I don't care who you hack. You hack Google, hack Twitter, hack AT&T. Social engineer one of those monkeys. Convince them you're me, and I'm completely fucked. My entire identity is now fucked, and completely owned by somebody else. Not just my cryptocurrency accounts. No, all my social media accounts. Probably saying things to my mom that I don't want anybody to say to my mom. Fucking give me a break, man. Try and just watch out for your bunghole, please. Because nobody else is going to do it for you. I say it at the end of every single show, and it's the truth. And you got to treat your online activity as if that is the case. And that includes cryptocurrencies. And that's why I'm really offended by the idea of KYC AML and all of the intrusive information that they ask for me. All you need for me as an exchange to do business with me is 2 articles. Number 1, an email. Because, if something goes wrong with my fucking account, there's that. And also I can use it for my sign-in ID, if I so choose. And number 2, a receive address for a wallet. And you don't even need that all the time. You only need it when I'm requesting a cash out. That's all you need from me. You don't need to know my name. You don't need to know where I live. You don't need to know my phone number, my blood type, my social security number, my photo ID. You do not need that shit. And by having that shit and holding on to that shit, you are making me vulnerable to when you get fucking hacked. We saw this with fucking Equifax. They don't need to keep all that shit. They don't need to keep all that data. You make a query with your data. They don't even have to keep track of your query. They match your data that you provide them against their data and see what the results are. If they get results back, okay. But they don't need to store your information. They don't even need to store the query information that you looked up. Or anybody else looked up for that matter. But no, they do keep that information, and so they're a big-ass fucking honeypot waiting for some hacker to get in and get the information for 1 out of 3 Americans. Give me a fucking break. We live in the 21st century, people. If it's online, it can be hacked. Period. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music, because we have not done that for a little while. And, I haven't played Metallica in a long time. Here it is, Master of Puppets, here on Coin Metal. And that was 12-Foot Ninja with Shuriken. Or Shuriken? Shuriken? Anyway, I love 12-Foot Ninja. One of my fans, he kind of said, you got to check these guys out. I did. I checked them out on YouTube, and then I bought all of it. Good stuff. Good stuff indeed. Anyway, I'm having a real hard time getting over this whole AT&T thing, only because it is near and dear to my heart. I used to work for such a place, and I will say this, that while there were a number of people that I worked with that were very, very professional in what they did, at its root, the place that I worked was specifically trying to upsell people in their services. And so when you take the concept of customer service and you abuse the trust of the customer to the extent where instead of getting a customer service agent, you're getting a sales agent under the auspices of getting customer services, when you've already blurred that line, the idea to encroach further on the whole ethical realm, it's that much more tempting. It's that much more available. And, when I'm thinking about this particular situation, because this guy got nailed twice, and as a matter of fact, I could have swore I read in one of the articles that there's some accusation as to whether or not there was somebody on the inside who was collaborating with the attacker on the second attack. And let me see if I can actually find the, let's see, reports this thing. Okay. Let's go to the CNBC report here. Cryptocurrency investor robbed. Keeping ad blocker on. Cryptocurrency investor robbed via his cell phone account sues AT&T for $224 million. see here. A U.S. investor filed a $224 million lawsuit against AT&T on Wednesday, accusing the telecommunications giant of negligence that allegedly caused the California resident to lose roughly $24 million in cryptocurrency. In a 69-page complaint filed in U.S. District Court in Los Angeles, Michael Turpin claimed that because of AT&T's willing cooperation with the hacker, gross negligence, violation of its statutory duties, and failure to adhere to its commitments in its privacy policy, he lost nearly $24 million in cryptocurrency. Turpin, who was using AT&T as his service provider, said the digital tokens were stolen through a, quote, digital identity theft of his cell phone account. Turpin was the victim of 2 hacks within 7 months. After the first hack, Turpin alleged that an imposter was able to get his phone number from a, quote, insider cooperating with the hacker without an AT&T store employee requiring him to show valid identification or provide a required password. That phone number was later used to access Turpin's cryptocurrency accounts, according to the complaint. Quote, what AT&T did was, we're not going to go into that, they let you into the hotel room. Turpin, who co-funded an angel group for Bitcoin investors called BitAngels in 2013, and a digital currency fund, BitAngels/dApps Fund, is seeking $200 million in punitive damages and $24 million of compensatory damages from AT&T. So, that was just a refresher on there. But the accusation, that was what I was most interested in, because I can actually envision how this went down, where this guy got nailed once, and so of course the hack itself was probably in the news, and so his name being foolishly still associated with his AT&T account was public knowledge. And so now it just took a matter of somebody working at a customer service place collaborating with somebody who is not working there, or somebody who formerly works there. Because then they would probably negotiate or probably talk to their manager and say, hey, I got to call this person back because such and such is such a bullshit. Okay, whatever. And the manager will say okay. And then they did call the person. The person was already in because they were calling. And so the requirement for password and whatnot probably wasn't there. And for all of you out there, you can talk about what I'm saying right now and say to yourself, oh, he's giving instructions on how to do this shit. You know what? I'm not giving instructions on this shit. I'm just as equally giving instructions on how you should be preventing this shit. Social engineering only works because you don't bother to train your employees to fucking avoid it. And as far as what I'm talking about being a temptation by some employee or whatnot, well, let me tell you, that has to do with your compensation and what you're asking those people to do. So, again, you want to blame the messenger? Pfft, take a look in the mirror, man. You got more to do with the situation than anybody else. And, I used to work in one of these places, and I can tell you right now, the level of compensation that is given to these people for what they do is insufficient. Insufficient. They handle high-level stressful shit. I've been tied up in 3-hour phone calls. I won't be tailing names or any of that other bullshit, but I mean, a long process to help somebody work through something that was costing them a significant amount of money. And it was just a thing. But I mean, it was a fucking phone call that lasted several hours. That required me to call this person more than once because, you know, she'd drop the phone, whatever, or, you know, he would get on the phone or whatever the fuck. But it took a long time to get it resolved. And once we did, she was very, very happy. I was very, very happy. But the point being that that is some high-level shit. And you're talking about managing people's data, their personal information, their records, their phone accounts, their bank accounts, all of that shit. And I've been thinking about it, and you really don't need all of that information. You really don't. You know, I mean, with what's possible these days, you know, with regard to communication, you don't need all of that shit. You don't need to be storing all of that as a big-ass honeypot for somebody to hack into. I mean, really, considering what AT&T does these days, I really think they need to revamp their whole mindset with regard to their service. You know, we're living in the 21st century, and there are some realities that were just the same in the 20th century as they are now, but there are a lot of things that have changed since then. And the idea of storing this information, okay, you know, when it's in a paper file and it's only available to the person that has to go to that paper file and look at it, okay, now you're talking. But you know, when it's on a database that it just requires somebody to talk to somebody else to get to it, that somebody could just as easily be somebody who is not the person whose information they're giving. You know, I'm George Washington. I'm calling about my AT&T account. I'm Donald Trump. I need to get in my AT&T account. I'm locked out of my email. Somebody would probably believe that one. I wouldn't even have to sound like him. You know, I get lucky and the customer service agent on the other end would be a rabid anti-Trump Democrat or whatever, and be right on board with trying to gank Donald Trump's AT&T account, you know? I mean, when you put that information in the hands of other people, there's no guarantee that everybody that has access to it is going to be of the mind to not do something evil with it. And so, again, why do we need to assume that liability? Why is it so necessary that somebody be associating our phone numbers with our names and our physical addresses and our email addresses and our bank account numbers and our routing addresses? Give me a fucking break. You don't need all that shit anymore. We can set up an account, me and you, and the data that I keep is on my end. I have access to it. You don't have access to it. You don't need access to it. When I have a problem, we check the information that I'm giving you against the information that you're receiving at your server, and we figure it out from there. But you keeping a hold of all of the information, all my payment information, all that other bullshit, that makes you a big fucking trove that everybody in the world wants to get into who doesn't have enough money to get by. Or even if they do have enough money to get by and just want even more fucking money, it's a temptation. Eliminate the temptation by not making yourself a trove of other people's information. And I know that's going to take away your super secret spy state, but you've got all of the surveillance out there going on that's tracking live data transfers, phone numbers, phone calls, messages, social media interactions. You've got all kinds of apparatus out there monitoring that shit in real time. So, again, why is it absolutely necessary to associate real world information to my phone that you don't actually need? Like for my paying you for service, right? Maybe you don't keep the information for the payment. Maybe you are just a qualified withdrawer with my bank. I give my bank permission to give you money rather than give you permission to take money out of my bank account. Maybe make the bank work for a living, instead of just storing your money and using it for collateral for trips to Vegas. But I caught this thing, and I want to kind of jump off of this topic because, I've been mulling it about in a long time, and like I said, there are tweaks that we can do with who has the information. If you make the person that is the customer or whatever the store of information, that lowers your liability. Okay, then it's just a matter of whether or not it's actually them using that information at the time. And again, that lowers the liability down to the person who has the access to the device. Not who could get access to the customer service information and all of that other bullshit. I mean, sure, that stuff is really fun for selling to other people, lists of clients and all that other shit. But again, you don't even require a physical address or any of that other bullshit to do that. So, why store it at all? Anyway, let's go ahead and get off of that subject. It is boring as fuck to some people, but I think it's a really big issue because, again, I used to work at a place like that, and I mean, there were people there that I worked with that were living multiple families to a house, and, with the temptation of, oh, what? If I compromise this person's account and get access to, somebody's going to give me a cut for it, and that's going to be in the tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's going to be relatively untraceable. Fuck yeah. I'd be tempted. Whether or not I would do it, I wouldn't do it. I can make money without having to steal it from other people. So, but, I'm not everybody, so I'm not asking you to prepare for me. I'm asking you to prepare for the guy that I'm talking about, who is in those dire situations and was just fortunate enough to get a job at a place. You give him a job at one of your customer service agencies, one of the people that you farmed that out to, which is a mistake in and of itself, because the employees of a third party do not have the same level of interest in maintaining the integrity of the data of your clients. See how that works? You divest the responsibility over that data to somebody else, and again, I can almost guarantee you when it comes down to it in this lawsuit, it's going to be AT&T that eats it. But it's going to be because, I feel anyway, it'll ultimately be because they farmed out their customer service to an uninterested third party. People who don't have the same hiring requirements or hiring standards or personnel standards. Offshoring and outsourcing and all that. It looks wonderful on paper. But again, you lose the relationship of your functions with with your company. And with that goes away the pride of the work. You'll get lucky sometimes. You'll find a a third party for providing some service, but it's because he wants your service again. He wants your business again. But there are others that they're volume seekers. If they lose you, big fucking what? They got another 3 or 4 clients that are just as big that they can just swap out their employees to. Say, hey, you're going to be working for these guys now, and we're going to do this as our training. This is the work that we're going to be doing. Done and done. Call centers converted within 2 weeks. The new employees don't know the difference. It's all the same to them. Now, contrast that with somebody who's worked for you for 20 years. How much more stringent are they about their work? Or do you even have anybody that's been around that long? That's... People talk about the loss of quality in services and whatnot. It's because you don't keep anybody around longer than 5 years. And you don't really give a fuck if you do. It's probably better if you don't, because then you don't have to pay for their retirement. Anyway, we're going to get off that and get on to this other thing, because I think it's just as interesting. And we've talked a lot about how you are the market. And so when it comes down to regulators and how they want the market to operate and how the market actually operates, there are usually some significant dissimilarities between the intended model and what's actually going on. And there's been this talk about a Bitcoin ETF, and honestly, I don't see that it's going to help anybody. I think it'll give the institutional investors the cred to say that, oh, hey, we're investing in Bitcoin. You're not investing in Bitcoin, dude. No amount of ETFs or any other promissory notes on volumes of Bitcoin will be the same as Bitcoin, nor will distort the actual number of Bitcoin that will ever be mined. And I keep coming back to this because it's one of the things that makes Bitcoin different than a lot of commodities out there, is that with a lot of other commodities, you do not have an absolute supply line from one end to another that doesn't have errors, that doesn't have fuck-ups in production, that doesn't have failures in production, that cost you along the line that you have to factor into your overall production cost. Bitcoin doesn't have the same liability of lag that we see with even agricultural products. They could do everything right, get all the way to harvest cleanly, package, everything's wonderful, while the stuff's on a dock waiting to be loaded onto a ship. A tsunami could come in and wipe out the whole fucking shipment. Now that represents a huge material loss for everybody, but it also increases the value of the load behind it that didn't get wiped out by the tsunami, that's going to come onto the deck of the docks there to be loaded onto the ship. But there's a discrepancy between the total produced and the total that will actually make it to the market, right? And that's why we have things like ETFs and so on and so forth, is because we have to have something in the market to represent it while it's not there. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but say gold, okay? Gold's traded 5 days a week, roughly 12, or I guess it's probably on 24-hour markets now. But there are usually lags between what the market demand is and what the available supply is. And because of that differential, you need something in the market to be able to represent the value at any one time. And so with regard to cryptocurrencies, you don't have that same dependency issue, at least on coins that are mined. You know, with those that are not mined, there's the possibility of them simply being issued, and we might actually get into that today. But anyway, I wanted to get into this article. It's on Bloomberg here under cryptocurrencies. This is by Lily Katz and Rachel Evans. So double no penis. There's now an exchange-traded Bitcoin note that American investors can buy. This is authored August 15th, 2018, 7:24 a.m. PDT. Thank you, Lily. Thank you, Rachel. If you want to buy Bitcoin without actually buying Bitcoin, which is kind of stupid, you now have another way to own the controversial digital currency. No, it's not the U.S. exchange-traded fund investors have been touting as a catalyst for demand for the embattled virtual money. It's an exchange-traded note, and starting Wednesday, investors can buy it more easily even though it's technically listed and regulated in Sweden. The product, called Bitcoin Tracker 1, is now quoted in US dollars under the ticker CXBTF, helping brokerages offer it to American investors. It started trading on the Nasdaq Stockholm Exchange in 2015. This is a soft opening of sorts for a crypto ETF, which has been repeatedly shot down by U.S. regulators in recent months amid concerns about manipulation and liquidity. CBOE Global Markets Inc. requested to list a fund designed by digital entrepreneurs Tyler and Cameron Winklevoss was denied last month, while a decision on a rival product from fund providers Van Eck Associates Corp. And SolidX Partners Inc. was pushed back until at least September. Quote, everyone that's investing in dollars can now get exposure to these products, whereas before they were only available in euros or Swedish krona, said Ryan Radloff, the Chief Executive Officer of CoinShares Holdings Ltd., the parent of the company that offers the ETN. Given the current climate on the regulatory front in the U.S., this is a big win for Bitcoin. Trading Bitcoin Tracker 1 is now only similar to buying an American depository receipt in that traders will see a foreign-listed asset in U.S. dollars. Investors can purchase so-called F-shares, which means that while the trades are executed in U.S. dollars, they are settled, cleared, and held in custody in its home market, according to OTC Markets Group. Unlike exchange-traded funds, ETNs are debt instruments that are backed by their issuers, often a bank, rather than a pool of assets, and often focus on esoteric strategies that don't easily fit in a fund. Bitcoin Tracker 1 may give investors an alternative to Grayscale's Bitcoin Investment Trust, which also offers exposure to Bitcoin. The Grayscale product trades at a significant premium to the underlying asset. Quote, I do see this as a competitive product, Radloff said. Our products historically have not traded at a premium and are liquid. Bitcoin Tracker 1 has slumped 51% this year amid the collapse in prices of cryptocurrencies. The notes that are issued by XBT provider AB, with a subsidiary of UK-based CoinShares Holdings, which purchases the relevant amount of Bitcoin needed. A spokesperson from the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission declined to comment. Shocking. Yeah, basically somebody found a way around them and they have no recourse against it. I'm not terribly excited about this, only because, again, why would I want to buy a representative token if I can buy the actual token? I don't understand. You know, I suppose that if you want to get into this, the best way to get into it is just to do it. Fuck this bullshit about, I want to be exposed to Bitcoin, but I don't want to expose myself to Bitcoin. Give me a fucking break. Jump in the fucking water, kid. Quit tipping your fucking toe in there and get in the fucking water. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down some more music. And what to put on? I haven't played any White Zombie for a while. I also haven't played any Within the Ruins for a while. Here we go. Objective Reality by Within the Ruins, here on Coin Metal. And that was Korn with Chutes and Ladders. We did go a little bit over long. And I did want to get into this one thing because, we keep hearing about this, and as far as I'm concerned, it's just like a crypto evolution. Like, when you first heard about Bitcoin and you first started mining or any of that, and you were probably oriented with a lot of the philosophical backing behind Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. And one of them was, for me at least, was I had several conversations about this to begin with several people in cryptocurrencies, and we had discussions about like what would happen if, and through these conversations about like, what if a nation said, this is a cryptocurrency that everybody's going to use? What kind of effect would that have? How would a government try to actually enforce the use of only their cryptocurrency versus others? What would be the advantage of using a nation's cryptocurrency versus international cryptocurrencies that are available to everybody? What would be the advantage of using coins that are not actually mined by the public? And, so on and so forth. How these philosophical questions, how they might actually play out in reality. And having had those conversations, it seems very prophetic to me to read some of these articles, where these are things that we talked about, and we saw how they played out in the conversations themselves and possible outcomes. And it surprises me how many of these conversations have actually been very accurate with regard to how things play out in the actual market. A good example is segregated witness. Some people like to talk about segregated witness like it's something that everybody uses, but even today, if you look at txstreet.com, I think is the if you look up if you Google TX Street, you'll see it on there from the traffic that you can observe on that visualizer, that not everybody's using SegWit. As a matter of fact, relatively few people are using SegWit, by comparison to the claims. And Lightning Network is like virtually non-existent as far as traffic goes. So, I see more traffic on Bitcoin Cash than I see on, as pathetic as the volume is on that too. But anyway, it is a good visualizer, and it gives you an idea that, what people say about cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin included, isn't necessarily a reflection of what's actually going on. And that reality is quite different than what's being represented or what's being told to you. And so, with that in mind, I got this article here. It's on express.co.uk. Venezuela crisis. Petro cryptocurrency to become official currency alongside the Bolivar. Gosh, I wonder if it'll depreciate 1,000,000% in a year. Venezuela is to make its homegrown cryptocurrency, the Petro, an official currency alongside the Bolivar as the South American nation continues to battle hyperinflation, which has left it on the brink of economic collapse. And this is by Harvey Gavin, so yes, penis. This is published 2047 rather, so it's 8 p.m. Wednesday, August 15th, 2018, updated 10:30, so gosh, relatively recently. Continuing on. President Nicolas Maduro announced state-owned oil giant Petroleus de Venezuela, PDVSA, will begin using the digital token from Monday, August 20th. In a television address, the Venezuelan leader revealed the country would soon have two units of currency, the digital Petro and the sovereign Bolivar, ABC International reports. He said his government would also introduce a new salary and pricing system which will be pegged to the cryptocurrency. The announcement comes as the oil-rich nation grapples with hyperinflation, which some forecasters have warned will soon hit 1,000,000%. President Maduro said the new Petro-based system will quote, mean a substantial improvement in the income of the workers. He said, quote, as of next Monday, Venezuela will have a second accounting unit based on the price, the value of the petro. It will be a second accounting unit of the Republic and will begin operations as a mandatory accounting unit of our PDVSA oil industry. The Petro was launched in February this year. Surprisingly, it has not absolutely collapsed. It's probably why they're going through 1,000,000% inflation, is they're buying their own coins to keep the value up. The cryptocurrency is designed to be propped up by Venezuela's vast oil reserves, with each digital token supposedly backed by 1 barrel of oil. Nearly 100 million coins, worth some $4.7 billion, roughly $6 billion, were made available in the initial sale, with discounts offered to attract overseas investors. The Venezuelan government hopes to use the digital currency to skirt sanctions imposed by the United States and the European Union, as well as reduce hyperinflation which has plagued the South American country's economy. The white paper on the Petro published by the government says the cryptocurrency complies with Venezuelan law and, quote, will be an instrument for Venezuela's economic stability and financial independence. Yeah, good luck with that, dude. But the cryptocurrency has come under fire from some observers who say there is a lack of detail on exactly how its value will be guaranteed by oil reserves. Rating site ICOindex.com has branded Petro as a, quote, scam, warning potential investors there is a worrying lack of information on how the digital token will work. The implementation of the Petro will take place on the same day 5 zeros are knocked off from the Bolivar, the latest in a series of attempts by the Venezuelan government to curb the country's soaring inflation. The newly printed banknotes will be known as the sovereign Bolivar to differentiate them from the old Bolivar notes. I guess adding the word sovereign will make them sovereign. Where do these fucking people get their ideas, man? Really? Here we go. John Brown. I'm in the comments section right now. John Brown 11. This is a great idea. The only thing better than a worthless paper currency is a second worthless digital currency. Very good. Yes, John Brown. Yes. Let's see. Robert Hardy, or I guess that's all that's actually exposed on here. His next one is, I regret to say that Maduro will experience the same call to justice as Nicolae Ceausescu? Wow. Ceausescu. That eventually happens to all failed dictators. Yeah. DK Tampa, lesson of Venezuela, the left is to a vibrant economy what kryptonite is to Superman. Margaret Thatcher was right about socialism working until you run out of the other guy's money. I wish every American school kid would take a week-long field trip there, or, more aptly, a failed trip. Yep. Very true. Winky Night, wrinkly old GIT. Is it true that a roll of toilet paper is now the most prized item anyone can buy in a supermarket in Venezuela? Very necessary to wipe your hands on after reading a government-approved newspaper. Yes, definitely. The disadvantage of the petro, you can set a pile of it on a fire to keep yourself warm. That's by Caribbean D, or Caribbean D can't. None123, so little Marxist and Stalinite trolls explain Venezuela and how this paragon of socialist idealism fits in with your vision of how the world should be. In fact, why haven't you all moved there? Yeah, very good. It's true. Socialism works until you run out of other people's money, and then it doesn't work anymore. Because then you have to print a bunch of notes that represent the money that you stole from other people instead of the money that you stole from the other people because you spent that on coke and hookers. And yeah. So there you have it. Maduro is going to push this petro thing even though he can't actually verify how the coin is supposed to be associated with the volumes of oil. I mean, he says 1-to-1 with, one petro being worth 1 barrel of oil, but how exactly does he guarantee that? And is he talking about above ground guaranteed reserves, or is he talking about below ground estimated reserves? What the hell is he going on? I think that an oil-backed cryptocurrency, if there were a way to 100%, without any doubt, associate a cryptocurrency with a physical commodity, specifically oil, it would be worth more money later. That's a guarantee. However, there is no way to definitively associate a cryptocurrency with a volume of oil. You cannot do it. You can't associate it with a volume of gold. You cannot associate it with a volume of dollars. Verifiably 100%. Now, there has been some question with regard to Tether and their reserves of US dollars, and they seem to be printing more Tether. So I'm assuming either A, they're getting massive deposits from some investors, or B, they're lying out their ass about how many US dollars they have and just printing up a bunch of fake fucking USDTs. We don't have any way to verify one way or the other because the nearest we've had to an audit wasn't even an audit, and that's that. And it is with that I'd like to close out this episode. Thank you very, very much for listening. I certainly do appreciate the support. You can find me on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, also in Telegram for Verge Currency, and the Discord channel for the same. We will be back again on Friday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so until then, I want you all to trade safe. Do your homework. And watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody else is going to do it for you. Thank you again for listening, and you all have an excellent evening. As far as what exactly we're going to play for our last dance, it's got to be Causality by The Contortionist.
Thank you again for listening, and good night.